If you're not happy with where you are and what you've got, you won't be happy with where you go or what you get. Happiness is a choice for today.
Welcome to the Listen for Life podcast with Genevieve Richardson. Genevieve is a speech-language pathologist rehabilitating adults with communication challenges after a stroke or due to a neurological impairment. Living with aphasia is hard. Caregiving is hard. You are not alone. Get equipped with knowledge from experts in the field and professionals you need to know. We'll hear stories and experiences from others who are navigating life with aphasia. So, put your earphones in and take a walk outside. This isn't just a podcast. This is a community, a resource, and a support system. We're in this together. Do life.
A stroke can be a trying time for any marriage. Not only is it a health crisis, but it can also be an emotional and financial one as well. Suffering from a stroke has the ability to completely change your life, which will consequently affect your marriage. If your spouse has suffered a stroke, it's important to do everything you can to support them, both physically and emotionally, and work together to rebuild a healthy relationship. If things are difficult in your marriage now, don't be discouraged. They don't have to stay that way. Many people learn how to navigate stroke rehabilitation while strengthening their marriages. Here are a few tips on how to strengthen your marriage after stroke. The first step in strengthening your marriage after a stroke is to communicate openly and honestly with each other about your feelings, needs, and concerns. This is easier said than done, of course, especially when you're dealing with the stress of a health crisis. One of the most healthy things you can do for your marriage after a stroke is to grieve together. Regardless of what the future holds, it's important to recognize the differences in your new life. Instead of each of you grieving in isolation in the name of being strong for your partner, allow your mutual emotion to bring you together. Sharing raw, vulnerable moments in the midst of difficulty can not only be a bonding experience, but also help to get both partners on the same page. If one partner is ready to grieve and the other isn't, that's okay. Another good way to build a healthy foundation for your marriage in a difficult season is acknowledge what each partner is going through, whether that's anger, grief, or overwhelm. Try to establish some mutual understanding in your marriage. Lean on each other for support. A stroke can be an isolating experience, so it's important to lean on each other for support, whether you're providing physical care or just being there for an emotional shoulder to cry on. Know that your presence makes a difference. It's okay to ask for help from family and friends too. You don't have to go through this alone. A specific way that you can lean on each other for support is to openly discuss the role differences in your marriage while dealing with the aftermath of a stroke. Many couples encounter role changes in their marriage because the stroke victim no longer has the same capacity to do the things that they could before. While this is not inherently bad, it can be difficult if roles are changing and there is not open communication around it. When giving and receiving has to look different in your marriage, it's important to communicate and reassign what each partner will be responsible for. That way, there is a shared reciprocity, even if it's on a smaller level, and you and your partner can get on the same page about working toward a mutual goal. Of course, these tips are general and broad. Each situation is different and every marriage is different. One story I'll share with you is a spouse and husband that I work with. She was feeling resentful that he didn't understand all that she had to do since his stroke. She took the time to write down what each of their roles and responsibilities were prior to his stroke, and then she wrote a second list of the roles and responsibilities for each of them since the stroke. Her list quadrupled in length, and his was very short due to the difficulties he had following his stroke. What this served for the spouse with the stroke to realize is that he had just a few things to do, and even if he didn't want to do them, he should really focus on them because those were his jobs now, namely to participate in rehabilitation and do the very best he could. Despite his level of aphasia, the spouse with the stroke was able to understand how roles had changed, and that even though he was tired of doing rehab, working out, and doing his speech therapy homework, that was his job, as his wife had had to take on all the other roles in the family. Make time for each other. It's easy to let your relationship take a back seat when you're dealing with a health crisis, but it's important to make time for each other, even if it's just 10 minutes before bedtime to talk or share a hug. Another story I'll share with you. One of my spouses was very much missing cuddling time when they were in bed because of the nature of his stroke and paralysis he had on one side of his body. They ended up making a change in the setup where the furniture and the bed was in their bedroom so that he could cuddle with her with his unaffected arm. I can't tell you what a difference that made for strengthening their marriage and helping that communication. So try to think outside the box. If you are missing physical contact and connection, figure out a way to get it back. If you're watching a show, hold hands. If you're asking him a question and he's sitting at the dinner table, put your hand on top of his, touch his shoulder, smile. These things go a long way. Regardless of the new challenges that a stroke may throw at your marriage, it's important to ask the question, how can we cope together instead of individually? By making time for each other and pursuing intentional connection, you'll be reminded of the support system that you have in your person. As your relationship adjusts and grows in the wake of a new way of life, you'll be able to mutually encourage each other and begin to thrive, not only in your rehabilitation journey, but also in your marriage. Stroke can be a trying time for any marriage, but by communicating openly, leaning on each other for support, and making time for one another, you can emerge from this experience with a stronger bond and a deeper understanding of your commitment to each other. If you'd like specific help improving communication with your loved one, Life Speech Pathology can help. Free consultations are available by phone, and you can find a link for scheduling where you are listening to this episode in the show notes and on our website, DoLifeSpeechPathology.com. Additional resources are available as well on the website, DoLifeSpeechPathology.com/resources. I've created a new freebie for you. It's a PDF workbook, and it's called A New Year, A New Way of Asking Questions in Aphasia. This downloadable PDF is available to you now in the show notes and also through our website. Be mindful of how you're asking questions. If you have a particularly challenging communication situation, be sure to go back and analyze it later. Really process it to figure out what could have been done differently. I hope you'll use this workbook. There's a lot of good information in here. In March of 2023, Life Aphasia Academy is launching a comprehensive course for spouses, partners, family members, and caregivers who care for a loved one with aphasia. The Aphasia Field Guide is a 5-week online course that provides a roadmap for discovery, connection, advocacy, and communication after stroke. I'll tell you more about it in the coming weeks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Listen for Life podcast. We hope you feel empowered and supported. Head over to listenforlifepodcast.com to see the show notes with links and information from today's episode. Do you have a topic, a resource to share, or a guest recommendation? Inquiring minds want to know. Let us know in the comments section. Wishing you a fabulous week.